All right, everyone, welcome to episode number 2 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. My name is Sean Rossler, and with me today, I like having guests like this because it truly runs the gamut of like people I have no idea and people I have a relatively good idea about. And this guy and I go back relatively a little bit of ways. He's an old drinking, carousing buddy of mine, admittedly. I'll spare the overall lengthy formal intro that I typically give. But back in the day, I even knew then from a variety of late night boozing, carousing, and mutual bumming of cigarettes. And if I recall correctly, they were Camel Lights. There was something very Kerouac about this guy. And I'd like to think I was right. He's a graduate of the Culinary Institute and is currently a maestro of libations, if we will, at Fish Story in the famed Napa Valley. And I believe, hopefully I'm correct, from a video long ago that he composed with a seared pork chop as the subject, pork chop and apples, something like that. I truly believe he's going to be among the next great up-and-comers in the Epicurean world. Old buddy of mine, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Gandenberger. How's it going, buddy?
Good, thanks. How are you, man?
Long time. Good. What's been going on, man?
So I am no longer at Fish Story, actually.
Okay.
About a year ago, I'm at the restaurant at Meadowood.
Restaurant at Meadowood, and what is your gig there, sir?
So I am working as a bar captain, so out front, still playing with cocktails a little bit, as well as taking care of guests. It's a 3 Michelin star restaurant, one of only 2 in the Western United States.
Wow. So you would highly recommend that were I to come out West Coast?
I'd say, yeah, it'd be good.
If you can find the time. Absolutely. Well, awesome, man. Apologize for the falsity with regards to Fish Story, but that's a really cool gig you landed, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
Excellent. So just to give you an idea of the way we do things, 3 sections of the cast. Starters, basically where you came from, what you're about. Mains, what you're doing now, how that's influencing what you're going to do. And afters, a couple kind of off the cuff, maybe out of the box questions with what food and culinary interests overall are to you. And you mentioned the Culinary Institute. When did you graduate from there?
I graduated September of 2008.
2008 September. Awesome. And so you are Chef Kris Gandenberger?
Nah. That's
okay.
I think chef it's an interesting term. I feel like with the popularization of food in general. Sure. A lot of people, they'll graduate from any culinary program and they'll go for sous chef and executive chef jobs and stuff like that. I think it's kind of a misnomer. I think chef is definitely a term to be earned, not necessarily given.
Do you feel it's more experiential than educational?
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Awesome. I always like to make sure because some folks get touchy about that. Some professors, name your university, that, I worked too many years to not be called doctor, and others don't really care.
Right.
So always like to check in on that. Cool, man. So just to start out, where did you grow up eating? Now, I kind of have an inside track here, but where did you grow up, where did you grow up eating, and how did you come up as an eater?
Well, grew up in Pennsylvania, Bloomsburg to be more specific. Parents are from the Midwest, so a lot of steak and potatoes. The dinner table as a kid, but as I grew up, we were only a couple hours from Philadelphia or New York City, trying to make it to either one of those places kind of as often as possible. And then moved around a little bit, lived in obviously upstate New York to go to school, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, Eastern Washington, and now California. So it's been a bit of a journey.
Yeah, man. You and Johnny Cash everywhere, man. Clearly. Cool, man. And as just a kid, do you remember what kind of eater you were? Were you a tough sell? Were you an easy sell?
Oh, I was definitely adventurous. I remember, probably middle school, I think, 12 or 13, I was probably the first time I tried sushi, and I was really, we went to a hibachi grill up in Wilkes-Barre area, and everyone just went for the show and the fire and stuff like that. But I was really interested in like, well, what's this raw fish and rice all about? Yeah. So no one, my parents weren't crazy about it, but I was hooked.
They were still the steak and potatoes kind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool, man. Cool. And thinking back to that childhood, is there a food in particular that just pangs you, that you miss, that no matter where you've been, training you've received, like is there a food that just cries out to you sometimes?
I mean, not necessarily. I think it's a tough question. I've just been able to experience a variety. Pretty much any kind of cuisine now is on demand. So cravings can be anything from Thai or Japanese to comfort food for sure. But nothing really sticks out now.
Cool, man. All right. There's no food in particular, a la the steak and potatoes, that you would say this is my childhood food.
I don't think so. Not really.
All right, man. Growing up, now clearly you've landed where you've landed, and I mean, what a cool gig to land in 3 Michelin stars. That's insanity. Thinking back, who would you consider growing up to have been your greatest culinary influence?
I think so. Ironically enough, my parents, in the '80s, bought the fancy microwave and all the microwave cookbooks. But at the same point, that they both, we had a garden growing up, and I remember canning tomatoes and things like that. So food preservation was pretty neat to see. We always had stuff lying around from the summertime, and of course, kind of working local restaurants back in Pennsylvania, there wasn't much of no one was really pushing the envelope, so to speak. I guess after I decided to go to school and did an internship in Portland, Oregon with Higgins restaurant.
Okay.
Chef Greg Higgins is really kind of right behind Alice Waters, been really instrumental in kind of the sustainable movement in the Northwest. So working there, I thought was really interesting that pretty much all the products came from within 3 hours of the restaurant, save for citrus or coffee or chocolate.
Sure. And I mean, not to step out of the typical biography that I try to get from folks. I mean, sustainable as a movement. I mean, I don't know that there's a more significant, and I hate to use the word homegrown because it almost comes off as a pun, but it's such a good movement in general, but from education to taste. I mean, I really don't see any negative aspect to it. And I mean, obviously you're there, you're frontlining it. I mean, so sustainable to you, that's a pretty huge consideration then, yes?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So you have your culinary influences, but that doesn't necessarily mean like for example, I have them, but obviously I didn't go the culinary route. When was the moment, if it was coming up, if it was growing up, that you knew food was not just a thing you put in your body, that it was something that you wanted to do? Was it a person, a moment, a dish that made you go, this is important, this is what I want to do with my life? I think kind of going back, it's almost a roundabout way of getting where I am now. I think working in restaurants was just became a job in my early 20s, late teens. Just waiting tables, cooking, dishwashing, whatever. Worked for some great people who had also gone to the Culinary Institute. And people who hadn't as well. But after moving around a little bit, I was actually living in Portland, Oregon prior to going to culinary school, and I really wanted this job waiting tables at a corporate steakhouse, which will remain unnamed. And
being all of 23 and from, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, I thought I was hot shit because I worked at the best restaurants.
Right.
So I ended up going to culinary school because I didn't get that job, which I thought was kind of funny. But once I enrolled, I met just some great people. Pretty much of the 60 or so kids I graduated with, 5 of them are now out here with me, all
That's
from the
awesome.
same class. But early on, I think it was just it was a means to an end, and then getting involved in the industry and seeing the enormity, I think, of not just food as restaurants, but as as a lifestyle, as as part of your well-being, I suppose. Really kind of captivated me. And, I suppose it's just kind of like anything else in life. If you're going to do something, you might as well do it the best. So that's where I am now.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds to me like just experience in general. And I think so many people say that. Bourdain, in most of his books, talks about how, it's not just a job, it's a culture. Your friends are the fellow chefs, the dishwashers, the wait staff. It's a culture in and unto itself, and it sounds to me like that culture just you fell in love with.
Absolutely. I think the amount of camaraderie, you're spending 10 hours a day with these people. Oftentimes, seeing them more than your family and friends. They become that support, that the back, and it's just you are successful together, and then you also fail together.
Sure.
And I think it's a very interesting team aspect that you have has to be looked at along those lines.
And it's a unique understanding, from what I understand too. Like, unless you've been in it, you can't really know it. It's almost like, and I forget who it was that said it, but it's just like being in war together. You can watch a movie about it, you can read a book about it, and that's one thing. But until you've been on that line, until you've been in that fire, and I think that's why maybe the bonds form so strongly.
Most certainly, and kind of goes. I think it's a romantic ideal, to want to compare it to the military and things like that. But honestly, it's not life or death. But it does come to the fact that you want to be around the best people because if someone's got your back, you want to make sure that they know what they're doing as well.
Sure, man. Awesome. So let's fast forward to today then, and we've kind of naturally done that. Your travel pattern leads us right into the present, and it's such a cool progression to come from being meat and potatoes guy, small town USA, to like the Napa friggin' Valley. You couldn't have possibly gone up the ranks, if you will, in a more direct fashion. So here you are, Napa Valley, California. Culinary mecca to most of us, myself included. Where do you currently? And we can go two ways here again, because you're both a drink crafter, bartender, bar captain, and you also know food. So either way you want to go with these, just go nuts with it. But where do you draw your inspiration from now? Napa Valley, California. Is it a person? Is it people? Is it the place you're in? Is it a thing?
I think as far as the creative aspects, I think is. Let me backtrack and say this. A lot of people will ask me, "Oh, well, you went to culinary school. Why aren't you cooking?" And I kind of have this canned answer. When behind the bar, it just comes up pretty often. But I could be working at great restaurants in the back, putting together 45 plates that look exactly the same with all the same components, or I could be out meeting 45 different people, and I certainly prefer the latter. And so for me, it's having gone that beverage route. It's nice to be able to continue to be creative because of of my background. But I think what's unique about the Napa Valley, in California in general, it's just the amount of produce that's available. I mean, citrus trees and, but it still has seasons and things like that. So a lot of inspiration for me. We do a lot of infusions with our bar program,
Nice.
based on those seasons. Right now, I just developed a cocktail using, it's called Spice Bush, and it grows around the Meadowood property. It's just kind of all over. It has this really interesting, almost like melon baking spice flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that in particular, we infused that into some botanivore gin from a distillery called St. George Spirits down in Alameda. So again, artisan producers from the Bay Area, local products, and then we've infused that gin and we make Corpse Survivor #2, which is a pretty classic cocktail, gin with equal parts Cointreau, lemon juice, and usually Lillet or some sort of fortified wine.
Wow, man. That's and the few times that have actually come out, that's the first thing that you realize. There's so much around you out there. Whereas here, just as an example, and obviously you can relate to it. I mean, it's hours in any direction to come anywhere close.
Yeah, and I think at the same time though, it was I think I feel fortunate growing up where I did in Pennsylvania because it's still is agricultural community. You go down to Penn State and there's a lot of people going to school to learn how to to farm and
mm-hmm.
We don't want to let's not get into the politics of growing corn for industrial feed and all that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But having that experience of being around farmland and kind of understanding it, as well as living in Hudson Valley, it just when you have the opportunity to go to farmers markets and things like that, I think that you should, as well as be inspired by, what's available, just being inspired by the fact that, you're not going to have tomatoes in January, just get over it,
Right.
And embrace that, I think, which is an interesting problem to have. But I mean, all in all, I think it's the wine industry, or the wine country is a very interesting place. As they say, a lot of people come here, to go to the tasting rooms and to, and pick out wines for their cellar and stuff like that. But when you talk to the people that produce these wines, there's a saying that it takes a lot of beer to make wine. And I kind of feel the same holds true with cocktails as well, I hope.
Absolutely. Cool, man. Over your career today, your career, even starting, back here in Bloom and Danville and so on, what has been, if you can name one, the greatest creation, the greatest thing that you've made as a food artist, as a drink artist, even if there's a drink, and this again, we can kind of two-way the answer here. Is there one thing that you've made over the years that stands out to you as, I made that is mine?
I think food-wise, nothing really stands out. I think, not to be on a tangent about, kind of sustainability and kind of a whole, whole food lifestyle, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But, every time, I've got a night off and my girlfriend and I make dinner, it's just, she's got a culinary background as well. And it's just, I love seeing pictures, when you and Greta make dinner for your kids and stuff like that. I just think that's so cool because every dish you make at home and share with friends and family, I think you should be proud of.
Solid.
But beyond that, cocktail wise, I've done some fun stuff. Recently put on we infused some tequila with fresh pomegranate over the winter, and we mixed that with a little bit of Quina de l'Avignon, which is again another fortified wine from Switzerland. It's got a little lime and grapefruit, and it's just some really great flavors going on. I think it's kind of where I'd like to see cocktails going is more infusions and less, flavored by the distilleries and more,
Right.
kind of in-home stuff.
Well, and again, it for me, and seeing that movement, the here and there that I've seen, obviously you live it, seeing that gets into the more, people are more home brewing. There's more micro brews now, and I think it's going to follow suit in time that, liquor follows the same fashion. And I think just a personal creativity, and truth be told, I'm absolutely flattered, one, that you've even seen pictures of that, but two, that you like them. And I think, being able to do that at home in the kitchen, I couldn't agree with you more that, I think what better way is there to be together, but to cook together. And also in your case, the other aspect, to drink together. So, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong either way.
No, certainly.
Well, so in the culture, and I think we kind of answered this with the infusions, but what's going to be the next big thing? And again, we can go food or we can go drink here, but what is going to be the next big thing?
Well, I think, as far as the food and wine world, we're starting to get away from. I'll start with wine just because it's obviously very near to me, but I think that we're going to stop seeing so much Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay. I think our generation, we're really starting to get away from those bigger varietals, that we're used to and just kind of inundated with. There's a great group of winemakers out here. They started a group called the 7% Solution. So it's this guy Steve Mathiasen from Mathiasen Cellars, and there's also Forlorn Hope. The guy's name is Steve. I can't remember his last name, but so what they're doing is because 93% of all grapes grown in this country are the big ones. Like I said, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Cabernet. So they're planting, some really interesting vineyards. Some a lot of interesting Italian varietals, or Verdelho, which is normally from Portugal. We're starting to see some Trousseau Gris, which is a really neat grape from like the Alsace-Lorraine region. And so I think that us as a younger generation, we're really starting to pick up on these more interesting varietals. Albarino, normally from Spain, we're starting to see here in the south of Napa Valley as well. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And so as we, I think as Americans, are still in a bit of I think we're kind of like basically toddlers in a culinary sense at this point. We're still getting our bearings and finding ourselves. But, I think we're finally over having, Spanish food is big for a while. Obviously Japanese food in the 90s, and the trends are always going towards like, which cuisine is going to be next, so to speak. But I'm happy to think that, for maybe the first time, what is going on in the food culture right now is distinctly American. I think we're starting to see breakout chefs. I think Ashley Christensen, who is a place called Pool's Diner in North Carolina, and a couple other businesses. She's kind of refining that Southern comfort food. My chef, Christopher Costow, he is sourcing so much from California. We have 2 farms that we use. One is actually on property, and one is 3/4 of a mile away. We're embracing our agriculture. We're embracing our own Americanism, if you will. That we've always been creative and ingenious when it comes to industry and things like that. And unfortunately, our culture, I think, fell to the wayside. But now that we are kind of, again, I think our generation's much more fascinated with the idea of bettering ourselves, like I said. So we do see a lot more innovation in the food and beverage world.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask too. Especially you being out in California, do you think the further and further and further focus on, eating not just for satiety but for health has something to do with that as well?
Well, I think there's a certain amount, dining out is a luxury, plain and simple. And so I think to refine that, it's I would like to think that people are trying to take better care of themselves, but I mean, sugar and fat, and salt, it all just tastes so good,
That's right. That's
And
right.
I think as professionals, it's our job to make food taste good. Um, and a lot of that is, utilizing those things, but I think we're starting to see less and less of kind of those, on the healthier things and more innovation and technique.
The Polydine culture, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to make food taste good that way, but I think with technique, I think we're making things better, slowly but surely. But I don't think people are necessarily dining out to be to be healthier. But I do think that as a whole, utilizing local purveyors and vendors and farms and things like that, I think that the kind of leads to a healthier infrastructure, if you will, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Where it comes from. And that's especially people not just being fat and sugar conscious, but chemical conscious, they know even further. So cool, man. Great all around. So what's next for Kris Gandenberger? Career wise, you obviously your answer, and I loved it, that you can make 45 plates the same, or you can meet 45 different people. I think there couldn't possibly be a more like genuine, awesome answer to that question. But I mean, is this you for a long time? Is this you till your gold watch? What do you want to do next?
Well, I think it's interesting because food in general obviously is so fluid. We'll see trends, go up and down, and it's we'll see, there's always someone who's the next hot whatever nonsense. What's for me, I think, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I'd be interested in doing. There is a company called Outstanding in the Field, based out of Santa Cruz. So they just basically they set 75 or 80 dates around the country, and they'll host these big dinners. 150, 200 people with a local chef and local purveyor, and they just set up a big long table, in a very peaceful, serene area, and just kind of it's a bit of the gospel of the farm to table, if you will. So that I think would be a neat opportunity. Beyond that, I don't know. I might go get some copper pipes and make a still. Try that route. There's no end to the possibilities, especially in this area. So
that's awesome. I mean, what a great place to be. What a great skyline to be looking at. So that's great, man. Last section of the cast. A couple questions, kind of off the cuff. I'm standing in your kitchen. Not really. But if I were, what music would I hear?
I've been listening to a lot of Tame Impala lately.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, pretty much it would just be a Pandora station based around that.
Right on. Cool. When you were back in the kitchen, because obviously you can't necessarily enjoy the freedom as much out behind the bar. How was your mouth in the kitchen? Were you a sailor?
Oh, absolutely.
You were.
Yeah.
And back in that situation, back in that day, what was your favorite curse word? If you had to name one that had your stamp on it,
cockbag just rolls off the tongue so well.
Love it.
I like that a whole lot. Yeah.
Excellent. So you're going to be stranded on a deserted island, completely random. You can see how random this gets at the end. It's like a bad trip. But you're going to be stranded on a deserted island, and you can only bring 3 foods or food items with you. What would they be and why? 3. Gotta be 3.
3 food items. Well, definitely champagne.
Nice.
I don't know. Probably, I'll say champagne and I think sushi. And I just need 2.
Just need 2.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about the minimalist. Very well done, sir. Champagne and sushi. That sounds survivable to me. Along the lines of Melanie Denea, I'm not sure. Have you ever seen any of her works?
Who's this?
Melanie Denea.
No, I'm not familiar.
She's the one that wrote My Last Supper, and it was a survey of 50 quote-unquote celebrity chefs, and the premise was simple. Your last meal. What do you want it to be? Who do you want it to be with? What do you want to have playing? All that. So I ask you, Kris, your last meal. What is it? Who's there? And what's playing in the background?
Wow. That's just like can it be anyone living or dead?
Anyone living or dead. Totally.
Nice.
It's so heavy. It really is.
No, yeah. I mean, I think I remember paging through that book a little bit, and
she actually wrote a follow-up volume to it, and it's got Marco Pierre White on the front.
Nice.
And his is just, it just floors you completely, along with a bunch of others. So I mean, it's a really super heavy question, but what would you have?
I mean, I think some sort of barbecue would probably be in order. Yeah. So whole roast pig.
I like it.
And all the mashed potato salad and mac and cheese and coleslaw. I think that'd be the most fun. And if I could probably invite anyone really I've ever shared a meal with.
Nice.
Because be a big pig, be a big party.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, and probably some more champagne.
Can't go wrong with champagne.
Yeah, I'll do some Krug and then lots of Burgundy wine.
Love it, man. Finally, last question. Food/culinary everything to you in one single word. What would it be? What is food to you in one word?
You want the smart-ass answer?
Sure, I'll take 2.
Well, you kind of already said it. What is food in one word? Well, it's still food, Sean.
Fair enough. Well done. Well played.
It's I think I think it's a culture.
Nice.
It's I know it's supposed to be a succinct answer, but I mean, you can pretty much record any human culture by what they ate, and you can see wars that have been waged, alliances formed, all because of some sort of agricultural product. It's pretty fascinating.
Absolutely. I was actually on a podcast recently, and you'll certainly appreciate this. And one of the topics was assembling a library, like a post-apocalyptic library, to rebuild culture from the ground up. And the question came to me, what book would you? And my first response was Le Ruse Gastronomique.
Mm-hmm.
What better way to start from the ground up than to start with the food that you eat and rediscover culture that way? So, no, I dude, culture is a beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. So with that in the books, my friend, our time is up. What are you plugging today?
What am I plugging today?
Yep.
Well, it's got to be the restaurant at Meadowood.
Restaurant at Meadowood.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. And man, all the best. It's great, kind of a dual purpose podcast and catching up with an old friend. So this is really awesome, and thank you.
No, thank you, Sean. It's been a pleasure.
All right, folks. That's been episode 2 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. My name is Sean Rossler. You can find me on Twitter @Rossler, SeanRossler.blogspot.com, and Sean Rossler pretty much anywhere else on the interwebs. Look for the episode to be available shortly. And next Sunday, I will be meeting up for episode 3 of the podcast, Natalie Slater of BaconDestroy.com, a vegan chef. It should be interesting. So tune in, and we'll see you soon.